Look around. Most people are exhausted. Not because life is too hard, but because they are too distracted. Distracted by opinions. Distracted by comparison. Distracted by people who do not matter. Distracted by proving themselves. And in trying to be seen, they lose themselves. That is the tragedy. A man spends years chasing attention, only to realize attention never built him. It only entertained his ego. Listen carefully. The moment you stop chasing validation and start building yourself, your life changes. Not slowly. Deeply. Because the world has trained you to look outward. To measure yourself against others. To seek approval. To explain your worth. To perform. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Look inward. Build inward. Strengthen inward. And let the results speak. Because here is the truth. When you focus on yourself, discipline grows. Peace grows. Clarity grows. Power grows. And eventually, the same people who overlooked you begin to notice. Not because you begged for their attention, but because your growth became impossible to ignore. That is power. Not being seen. Becoming undeniable. There is a difference. And most people never understand it. They want recognition before work. Respect before discipline. Success before sacrifice. But life does not work that way. Life rewards the builder. Not the beggar. Think about the mountain. It stands tall. Silent. Unmoved. It does not ask to be admired. Yet people travel across the world just to witness it. Why? Because strength attracts. Naturally. Without force. Become the mountain. Strong. Still. Focused. And if you are ready to build yourself into someone impossible to ignore, subscribe to the Stoic path. Because here, we do not chase comfort. We build discipline. Strength. And the kind of inner power that changes everything. Now let's begin. There was once a young man obsessed with proving himself. Every achievement he posted. Every success he announced. Every small win. He needed applause. But despite all the noise, he felt empty. One day, he met an old craftsman. The craftsman spent years building furniture. Beautiful work. Precise. Timeless. But he never advertised. Never bragged. And yet people kept coming. The young man asked, "How do people find you?" The old man smiled. Quality speaks. That sentence changed him. And it should change you. Quality speaks. Discipline speaks. Consistency speaks. Growth speaks. You do not need to announce progress. Real progress becomes visible. That is why focus matters. Because focus builds quality. And quality attracts respect. Understand this. Every hour you spend watching others is an hour stolen from building yourself. Every hour spent comparing is an hour lost improving. Comparison is expensive. Not because it hurts. Because it delays. There was a farmer with 2 fields. Instead of watering his own field, he kept watching his neighbor's crops. Comparing growth. Comparing size. Comparing progress. And by harvest season, his field was empty. Because observation without action changes nothing. That is many people. Watching. Scrolling. Comparing. Talking. Judging. While their own life waits. Stop watching. Start building. Your life needs your attention. not theirs. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "Do not waste what remains of your life in wondering about others." Powerful. Because wondering about others weakens focus. And focus is your weapon. Your body changes when you focus. Your mind sharpens. Your energy shifts. Your standards rise. People notice. But by then, you no longer need them to. That is the beauty of self-focus. At first, you do it to improve. Later, you do it because peace feels better than approval. There was once a boxer who trained alone. No crowd. No cameras. No praise. Just discipline. Every morning before sunrise. People laughed. "Who are you fighting?" He answered, "My old self." Years later, he became champion. Because the greatest battle is never outside. It is inside. Against laziness. Against distraction. Against weakness. And that battle requires focus. Focus on your habits. Not your hype. Hype fades. Habits remain. People admire results. But results are built in silence. A sculptor works in silence. A seed grows in silence. A warrior trains in silence. Silence is where transformation happens. Stop announcing your next move. Move. Stop promising change. Change. Stop explaining your vision. Build it. There is strength in quiet work. The world is noisy. Everyone talking. Few building. Be among the builders. A man once carried bricks every day. One brick. Then another. Then another. People mocked him. Why so slow? He said nothing. Years later, those bricks became a house. And the mockers had nothing. That is life. Small efforts. Repeated daily. Become visible greatness. Most people quit because progress feels invisible. But invisible does not mean absent. Roots grow before trees appear. Remember that. Just because people cannot see your growth does not mean growth is not happening. Trust the process. Protect the process. A Stoic does not chase immediate reward. He understands time. He understands patience. He understands that what lasts takes longer. And in that patience, power is built. Now let me tell you something dangerous. Seeking attention weakens discipline. Because attention can become addiction. And addiction makes people perform, not grow. A woman once posted every step of her journey. Her workouts. Her goals. Her plans. But she spent more time showing effort than doing effort. And eventually, nothing changed. Because performance replaced progress. Be careful. Do not confuse being seen with becoming better. They are not the same. A tree does not scream while growing. It simply grows. And one day, its height speaks. Be like that. Grow quietly. Let time reveal you. There is another enemy of self-focus. People. Not all people. But the wrong people. Those who drain your energy. Distract your mind. Pull you backward. Mock your growth. Question your discipline. A man once tried to climb a hill with friends who hated climbing. Every step. They complained. Every step. They slowed him. Eventually, he realized. Not everyone can go where you are going. And he climbed alone. Sometimes solitude is necessary. Not because you hate people. Because growth needs space. Focus needs space. Peace needs space. Loneliness can be painful. But distraction is more dangerous. Loneliness teaches you yourself. Distraction makes you escape yourself. Choose wisely. The eagle flies alone for a reason. Not arrogance. Vision. It rises above noise. Above chaos. Above distraction. That is what self-focus does. It elevates you. Not above people. Above pettiness. Above comparison. Above weakness. And elevation changes perspective. Let me tell you something difficult. The world does not reward potential. It rewards proof. Potential is invisible. Proof is undeniable. And proof is built in silence. That is why focusing on yourself is powerful. Because while others are announcing their plans, you are becoming the proof. There is a story of a blacksmith. Every day, he struck iron in silence. No audience. No applause. Just fire. Heat. Pressure. Strike after strike. A young boy asked him, "How do you know when the sword is ready?" The blacksmith replied, "When the fire has shaped it enough." That is you. Right now. Life is shaping you. The pain. The setbacks. The lonely nights. The discipline. The silence. It is all fire. And if you endure it, you will come out sharper. Stronger. Unbreakable. But here is where most people fail. They focus too much on being noticed, instead of being prepared. And there is a difference. Being noticed feels good. Being prepared changes your life. Imagine two men. One spends all day talking about success. The other spends all day building it. Years later. One has stories. The other has results. Which one do you think gets respected? Results silence doubt. Results silence mockery. Results silence those who underestimated you. That is why Stoics valued action over talk. Marcus Aurelius wrote in silence. Led in silence. Suffered in silence. And history remembers him. Not because he chased attention, but because his discipline became undeniable. That should teach you something. Attention fades. Value remains. Build value. And value comes from repetition. Daily repetition. Not occasional effort. A man once wanted to change his body. So he trained for 3 days. Then stopped. 3 months later. Nothing changed. He said, "Maybe this doesn't work." But the truth? He did not stay long enough. Focus demands consistency. Not intensity. Consistency. A river cuts through rock. Not because of power, but because of persistence. Be like the river. Keep going. Even when change feels invisible. Especially then. Because invisible growth is still growth. A bamboo tree spends years growing underground. No visible progress. Nothing impressive. Nothing to show. And then, in a short time, it shoots upward. People call it sudden. But it was never sudden. It was prepared in silence. That is your journey. People will call your success sudden. They won't see the nights. The effort. The discipline. The sacrifices. But you will know. And that is enough. Now let's talk about something dangerous. Seeking validation. Validation is addictive. It makes you dependent. Dependent on praise. Dependent on approval. Dependent on being seen. And dependency weakens focus. A man once posted every small achievement online. Not because he was proud. But because he needed reassurance. Needed approval. Needed applause. And when the applause slowed, so did his effort. That is the danger. When your fuel is external, your fire becomes unstable. Stoics taught self-approval, not arrogance. Inner certainty. The ability to say, I know my worth even if nobody sees it. That is freedom. When you stop needing recognition, you gain power. Because now your work is pure. Not for applause. For growth. And growth compounds. A farmer plants seeds. He does not dig them up every day to check progress. He trusts the process. Waters them. Protects them. Waits. That is focus. Trusting what you cannot yet see. And many people destroy their own progress because they are impatient. They want immediate transformation. Immediate success. Immediate results. But life rarely works that way. A sculptor does not strike stone once and create beauty. He returns. Again. 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 Until shape appears. That is your responsibility. Return to yourself daily. Sharpen daily. Refine daily. Improve daily. Even when nobody notices. Especially when nobody notices. Because private discipline creates public greatness. And here is another truth. Your circle matters. Who you spend time with shapes your focus. A man trying to rise cannot stay surrounded by people committed to staying the same. Energy transfers. Standards transfer. Habits transfer. There was once an eagle raised among chickens. It scratched the ground. Stayed low. Lived small. Because it thought it was a chicken. One day another eagle saw it and said, You were made to fly. And everything changed. Environment matters. Some people keep you grounded. Others remind you to rise. Choose wisely. Protect your energy. Protect your focus. Protect your future. Not everyone deserves access to your growth. And not everyone will understand your discipline. That's okay. A person committed to comfort will always question your sacrifice. Because your discipline reminds them of their excuses. Do not explain. Do not argue. Do not convince. Just continue. Let your transformation speak. There was once a runner mocked for training alone. People laughed. Called him obsessed. Years later, they watched him win. And suddenly, the same discipline they mocked became admirable. People often respect the result of what they once criticized. Remember that. Their opinion is temporary. Your growth is permanent. Keep going. Now understand this. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Because if you are broken, what can you truly offer others? If your mind is chaotic, what peace can you give? If your discipline is weak, what example can you set? Strengthen yourself. Not out of ego. Out of responsibility. A tree must grow strong before it can give shade. Be the tree. Grow roots. Deep roots. Discipline. Patience. Focus. Silence. These are roots. And roots create stability. Storms will come. Criticism will come. Loss will come. Disappointment will come. But rooted people do not fall easily. That is stoic strength. Not avoiding storms. Standing through them. And standing changes everything. One final story. There was once a young warrior desperate to prove himself. He challenged everyone. Talked loudly. Boasted often. But the old master ignored him. One day the young warrior asked, Why do you never respond to me? The master said, A mountain does not respond to every wind. That is wisdom. Not every challenge deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every distraction deserves your focus. Be the mountain. Still. Grounded. Unmoved. And let time reveal your strength. So from this day forward, focus on your craft. Focus on your discipline. Focus on your peace. Focus on your mind. Focus on your purpose. And keep going. Until your results become impossible to ignore. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because here, we build the kind of strength that does not beg to be seen. It becomes undeniable. Remember, the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest person is often the one building quietly. And one day, the world will hear what your silence has been creating. Now listen carefully. There is something painful about growth that nobody talks about. Growth is lonely. Not because nobody loves you, but because the version of you that is rising cannot keep company with everything that kept the old you comfortable. And that hurts. Because sometimes growth requires distance. Distance from distraction. Distance from noise. Distance from people who only understand the old you. That is one of the hardest parts of focusing on yourself. People will think you changed. And they will be right. Because you did. You had to. A snake cannot keep its old skin and still grow. Something must be shed. Old habits. Old excuses. Old friendships. Old versions of yourself. And shedding feels like loss. But often, it is liberation. There was once a man who carried heavy stones in his backpack every day. He complained about how hard life felt. How exhausting everything was. An old traveler asked him, "Why do you keep carrying what you no longer need?" The man looked confused. Then opened the bag. Inside were stones collected from years of pain. Old betrayals. Old regrets. Old anger. And suddenly he understood. He was not tired because of the road. He was tired because of what he refused to release. Many people are like that. Trying to grow, while carrying emotional weight. And weight slows growth. You cannot focus on yourself if your mind is still chained to what hurt you. Release it. Not because it didn't matter, but because your future matters more. There is a difference between remembering pain and living in it. Stoics understood this. Pain is a teacher, not a home. Learn the lesson. Leave the wound. Keep moving. Because your future needs your energy. And energy is limited. Do not waste it replaying what cannot be changed. Focus on what can. Your habits. Your discipline. Your standards. Your future. That is power. And understand this. People often ignore you before they admire you. That is part of the journey. At first, nobody notices. Nobody cares. Nobody claps. And that silence tests your commitment. Because when there is no applause, your reason must be deeper. A musician practiced in empty rooms for years. No audience. No praise. Just repetition. People thought he was wasting time. Until one day, the world heard what silence had been building. That is your life. Right now, you may feel unseen, unnoticed, unappreciated. Good. Because obscurity builds strength. It builds patience. It builds discipline. It teaches you to work without validation. And that makes you dangerous. Because when your work no longer depends on praise, your consistency becomes unstoppable. Most people quit because nobody noticed. But that is exactly when you should continue. Because roots grow in darkness. And strong roots create visible strength later. A tree does not ask the world to watch it grow. It just grows. And one day, its height speaks for itself. Be like that. Grow quietly. Grow deeply. Grow consistently. And let time reveal you. Now let's speak about comparison again. Because comparison destroys focus faster than failure. Failure hurts. Comparison poisons. It makes you feel late. Small. Behind. And the truth? Everyone's path is different. A man once planted 2 seeds. One became a flower quickly. The other took much longer. 4 months. It looked like nothing was happening. But beneath the soil, roots were expanding. And when it finally grew, it grew stronger and taller. Do not compare timelines. Some people bloom early. Some bloom deeply. What matters is not speed. It is strength. A rushed life often creates weak foundations. Take your time. Build properly. There is no prize for arriving broken. And here is another truth. Success changes relationships. Not because success changes you, but because growth reveals people. Some will celebrate you. Some will envy you. Some will distance themselves. That is natural. Do not take it personally. A rising sun cannot apologize for shining. Neither should you apologize for growing. Your responsibility is not to remain small for the comfort of others. Your responsibility is to become who you are capable of becoming. Fully. Completely. Without fear. Without apology. There was once a sculptor working on a statue. Day after day, he chipped away at stone. Someone asked, "Why do you keep removing pieces?" The sculptor replied, "I am revealing what was always inside." That is self-focus. Not becoming fake. Becoming true. Removing weakness. Removing distraction. Removing fear. Until your real strength is visible. That process takes time. Be patient. Patience is not waiting. Patience is working while waiting. That is stoic patience. Working without panic. Growing without noise. Trusting without proof. Because proof comes later. And when it comes, it silences everything. One day, those who ignored your effort will notice your result. Those who doubted your discipline will respect your consistency. Those who laughed at your solitude will admire your strength. But by then, their approval won't matter. Because the goal was never their approval. The goal was transformation. And transformation changes everything. It changes how you think. How you move. How you speak. How you carry yourself. People can feel it. Presence changes. Energy changes. And when your presence changes, the world responds differently. Not because the world changed. Because you did. A weak man seeks attention. A strong man builds value. And value attracts attention naturally. That is the stoic path. Not chasing. Building. Not begging. Growing. Not proving. Becoming. So from this day, make a decision. A real decision. To focus. To protect your energy. To sharpen your discipline. To guard your peace. To invest in yourself. To become undeniable. Not for revenge. Not for applause. For yourself. Because the greatest reward of self-focus is not success. It is self-respect. Knowing you kept going. Knowing you stayed disciplined. Knowing you became stronger. That is priceless. And if this message speaks to your journey, subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because here, we build in silence. We grow in discipline. And we become the kind of people the world cannot ignore. Remember this. The seed is ignored. Until it becomes the tree. The beginner is ignored. Until mastery appears. The disciplined are ignored. Until results speak. So stay focused. Stay patient. Stay disciplined. And keep building. Until your presence speaks louder than your words ever could.